Good morning. My name is Justin Villery, and this is another edition of Studio C70 with the Committee of 70. Today, we are very excited to have former council member Allan Domb, who is running for the Democratic nomination for mayor of Philadelphia, and he will be interviewed today by the AP government class from Miss Alicia Davis at Constitution High School. So I'm going to turn it over to Miss Davis and to Mr. Domb. Thank you very much to both of you for being here.
Okay, so good morning, Mr. Domb. Thank you so much for taking time to do an interview with us. The first thing I would like is if you could just give us a brief overview of your background. We looked at your city council website and your mayor website and everything, but yeah, just to overall summarize what you want us to know about you.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, and thanks for having me here this morning. I appreciate it. I'm running for mayor because Philadelphia is in crisis. We have a public safety crisis, a poverty crisis, affordable housing crisis, and education crisis. But the most important crisis we have is a crisis of leadership, because strong leadership can solve these issues. I'm the only candidate for mayor who has successfully built a business from the ground up. I've hired many people, created a lot of jobs. I've also served on city council for almost 2 terms. So I have a combination of experiences of working in the private sector and the government sector. It gives me a unique perspective as to the skills needed to fix what we know is broken, including public safety, including repairing potholes, including cleaning our streets, but also making sure we get our priorities set and correct and focus on public safety. That's clearly the #1 issue. And besides getting public safety under control, we need to bring in also a new public safety cabinet. I'll be cracking down on retail theft, gun violence, illegal gun violations. And I've set an ambitious goal for my first 4 years of reducing homicides by 50%. Crime is a symptom of the underlying problems. Education is the long-term cure. We can talk about that further. But Philadelphia is at a crucial turning point right now. In our city's history, we need a mayor who's going to have the right experience, the skill set, and the ability to solve these problems. And this is really a big-time management leadership job. Very different set of skills from being a council person to being a chief executive officer of a $6 billion entity known as the City of Philadelphia. So I look forward to answering your questions today. Thanks, and thanks for having me.
All right, thank you. So we're going to start with Kavance. And then we have 3 students after him who also have their questions. So Kavance, go ahead and start with the first question.
So since you are like a well-known real estate agent, a really wealthy one at that, how will you help our city stop in very important neighborhoods?
So, well, first of all, you should know my background. I grew up very modestly. I grew up when I was 12 years old. We lived in an apartment building, 800 square feet, with my parents and my older brother, who was 16. And we were evicted from our building because we had no heat for 2 weeks. My mother complained, and the landlord evicted us. We had no housing. So I understand eviction crisis. I understand not having a roof over your head. We had to move in 30 days. And growing up, while I may have done well today, at 5 years of age, I was out 5:30 in the morning till 7:30, shining shoes for 25 cents a shine. I had 2 paper routes when I was 11, before school at 5:30, after school at 3:30. I went to public school my whole life. I was on the wrestling team. After wrestling practice at 6 o'clock at night, I worked from 6:30 till 9, freshman year pumping gas. And sophomore year, I was actually a janitor from 6:30 to 10:30, 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday. At that time, it was $1.60 an hour. And my point in sharing that is that I grew up with nothing and just worked really hard, put my head down and worked and worked and worked to get to where I am today. And a lot of it was also saving, not spending, and being very careful. So to answer your question, I have the skill set to really fix the biggest issue in the city, which is poverty and public safety. Those are really the 2 biggest issues, and education is the key to those 2 issues. But I'll give you one example. When I was on council, I researched the top 50 cities in the United States and found out that of all of the top 50 cities, Philadelphia was taxing lower income people the highest. People that made less than $35,000. We were taxing them at 18.1% of their income. Every other city was taxing at 10 to 14%. And then we wondered why people were in poverty. I passed a bill called the wage tax bill that reimbursed 60,000 families, 200,000 people, their portion of the wage taxes that they shouldn't have been paying, $800 to $1,000 a year. One of the biggest progressive bills passed in council, affecting 200,000 people. So I understand how to help people. But I also understand our biggest problem in the government is that we need to take people out of poverty, not make them comfortable in poverty. And that requires good paying jobs. And that requires adjusting our taxation policies. It requires supporting entrepreneurs and supporting them not just as entrepreneurs, but to scale up their businesses. It requires us to get more employment into the city. You know, the city of Philadelphia, I don't know if the class knows this, of the top 20 employers in the city of Philadelphia, only 3 are private sector. Everyone else is eds and meds. When you go to Minneapolis, there's 28 corporate headquarters. We have 3 private sector in there: Comcast, American Airlines because of the airport, and Allied Security because of the guard services required. We do not have a competitive economy in Philadelphia to grow good paying jobs, and that's what we need to do.
Okay, thank you. Kareem, you're up next. Got nice loud voice.
Inspired you to enter the world of politics?
Did you hear him?
No, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
He asked, what inspired you to enter politics?
Well, I'll tell you what inspired me. I came here with nothing. I was making $15,000 a year in 1976. Again, I put my head down. I was working in the time lock business, and I tripled their business because I would work 12 to 14-hour days, and I tripled their business in 2.5 years. And the owners gave me a $10 a week raise, which I thought was a joke. So I heard a guy on the radio, and I went to Temple's Real Estate Institute, took my real estate license courses. And in 1980, I went into real estate full-time, but kept my other full-time job. I would work from 6:30 to 10:30 at night, 4 nights a week until 8 o'clock Friday, and Saturday and Sundays I'd work 9 to 7. I was a worker bee. And so did it for 3 straight years, went into real estate full-time. I invested in the city invested in me. I was president of Board of Realtors in 2012, 2013, 14, and 15. And I saw what was going on in the city. And I said, you know what, I can help. And the city was so good to me, and I love Philadelphia. The city was so good to me that it inspired me to try to help. So I was going to originally run for mayor in 2015, until I sat down with political experts who said to me, Allan, you know zero about government. It's like you want to be a heart surgeon. You've never done any surgeries or even gone to medical school. I suggest you go into council and learn about government. So I did that. They were 100% right. I served almost 2 terms. And what motivates me is a Winston Churchill quote. And the quote goes like this: we make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. And to me, that tells it all. And at this point of my career, my life, the city that I love has been extremely good to me. All I want to do is help Philadelphia. I've never taken a salary. For the 7 years on council, I donated my salary to education, schools. I never took a car. I never took a phone. I took nothing. I'm not in a pension. I don't want any money for it. I'm just doing this to help the city. And that's how government should be. We should want people who aren't profiting off government, but are really doing it to help the city.
Okay, so Evan, you're up next.
How did real estate influence your decision in running for mayor?
Okay, so how specifically did your experience with real estate, how did that connect to you wanting to get into politics? I guess originally trying to run for mayor back in 2015, you said?
You know, I will say this. Every job, in my opinion, is 49% technical and 51% hospitality. In the real estate profession, your goal is to help people find the biggest decision, make the biggest decision of their lives, typically financially. 95% of the people in the United States, the biggest decision financially of their life is to buy a home. And so you're able to help them do that. And that's a great feeling, helping people. Government's the same way. We're helping people. I love to help people, all people, everyone who has issues, whatever. I love to solve their problems for them. And you have to gain gratitude from helping others achieve and solve their issues. I think that's really important. And I think the real estate profession and other professions train you to do that. So I think the transition was easy, but also for me, it was also the fact that I repeating what I'm going to say earlier, Philadelphia was amazingly good to me because I came here with nothing. And the city gave me my opportunity. And I feel compelled to want to help the city. And look, I have specific goals, and I'm not your typical politician. I set 3 goals for the city of Philadelphia when I'm mayor. Number 1, in the next 10 years, Take 100,000 people out of poverty. We haven't done that in 50 years. Take them out and have the strategies and tactics to achieve that goal. Number two, create 100,000 good paying jobs that pay 35 to 100,000. And number three, expand our base, bring 100,000 new residents into the city so they can help share our tax base and offset some of that tax load that our current residents are under. But we haven't moved the needle. You know, in 1972, I don't know if you all know Dr. Leon Sullivan. He wrote an article saying that in the Black and brown community, entrepreneurship is 2 to 3%. We need to have more. 51 years later, today, entrepreneurship in the Black and brown community is still 2 to 3%. We have not moved the needle. And I'm not taking on this job to be your mayor to not move the needle. I'm going to move the needle dramatically and make dramatic change. Otherwise, I'm not interested in doing this job. I'm only interested to make dramatic change.
Yai, you're up next.
My question is, what is your plan to improve the safety of Philadelphia?
Did you hear her?
I think the question is, what's my plan to improve the safety of Philadelphia?
Yes, that's the question.
Okay, so the first thing I will tell you as a leader and as the mayor of the city of Philadelphia, one of the most important things that you should recognize is that you're not going to be the smartest person in the room. And there are smarter people outside of the room that can help you in almost every aspect. But as the mayor, you need to be able to get the information and make a decisive decision on what the right move should be. So in the area of public safety, I consulted with outside law enforcement people. I consulted with a past police commissioner who, when he was commissioner, crime was less than half of what it is today. So here's the plan that he kind of outlined for me and helped me formulate. It's a 10-point public safety plan. It starts with day one, declaring a crime emergency in the city of Philadelphia so we can engage all of our departments. Number two, it starts with declaring a public health emergency in Kensington. Kensington's a disaster. I don't know if any of you have been there. It is a humanitarian crisis that we need to deal with and solve. Number three, implementation of the 10-point public safety plan. In that plan, we need to focus on the most violent people on our streets. Every city is having similar issues. Small amount of people committing the majority of the crime. And according to prior law enforcement experts, they advise me that it's between 17 and 1,800 people on our streets that are extremely dangerous. Most are involved in gangs, drugs, and a lot of it's retaliation. And we need to take them off the street to really reduce dramatically the violent crime. Number two, we need to prosecute illegal gun violations. I don't know if you all remember, there was a 14-year-old young man who was killed in Roxborough coming off the football field. Innocent. The shooter, the group that shooter was associated with, had 18 prior gun violations. 18 have been out on bail for drunk driving and killing a pregnant woman's baby and had murdered someone the day before. Like, why was that person on the street? 18 prior gun violations. And I say that because I met with Nicholas's mom and grandmother. And this was Nicholas's mom's only child. And it is a heartbreak for what they're going through. It's tragic. So we need to prosecute illegal gun violations. But we also need to prosecute retail theft. It's just not okay to steal. Our neighborhood stores are suffering dramatically from theft that occurs, which they can't do anything about. It's not okay to steal $200, $300, $400 of items and walk out the store. That's just not acceptable. But we also need to get police out of their police cars and walking a beat to build trust in the community. So my website has 10 specific plans. It's votedom.com. I encourage you to check it out. And the last piece I want to just mention, I did this while I was on council. I will form a public safety cabinet consisting of the district attorney, police commissioner, U.S. attorney, attorney general's office, FBI, ATF, courts, PATCO and SEPTA security, and EDS and MED security. I will conduct the meetings myself on a weekly basis, where the meetings take an hour or 6 hours, with the goal to reduce homicides by 50% in the first 4 years. It's the most important thing, is to make sure all of you are safe, going to school, going out in the evening, or just coming in anywhere in the city, making sure you're safe. That is the number one issue.
Okay, thank you so much. So that was a great answer. I think did you get what you needed out of that, Yai? So Nikira is up next, and then we have one more student behind her. So go ahead, Nikira, nice office.
Why should people vote for you?
Okay, so biggest thing, why you? Why should Philadelphians vote for you for mayor?
That's a great question. I think it's my experience. The fact that I have experience from the private sector of almost 40 years and almost 7 years in council, I bridge the gap of the only candidate, the only one who has experience on both sides of the table, who has built a business from the ground up, who's climbed out of basically modest upbringing and knows how to create entrepreneurship and help people create good employment. I think those are skills that we need in the city. What I haven't talked about and I want to share with all of you is my plan for schools. And that is I want to teach kindergarten through 12th grade, financial literacy and how to buy a home and why it's important. I want to teach technology K through 12, and I want to teach entrepreneurship K through 12. And in high school, for those kids that are interested, I want to give them an option. Go to school 4 days a week. And on the 5th day, work in a job, get credit, get paid, get a summer job. And in this labor market, the employer will probably say, hey, Alan, you're working on Mondays, on Tuesday through Friday after school, and maybe Saturday. Can you come in and work from 3:30 to 6 and all day Saturday? We need employment. This gets kids off the street and employed gainfully. There's a school called Cristo Rey High School at 17th and Allegheny. They allow kids to go to school 4 days a week and work 1 day a week in a job. Last year, their graduation high school rates were 99%. And of the 99%, 100% went on to college. So this works. And so when you're asking why me, mainly because I have the ideas and the ability to implement them to really make a dramatic change for the city. If you want to keep it as status quo, I'm not your person. I'm not doing this for that reason. I could easily not run for mayor. I don't need to do it. I'm doing it because I love the city and I know we can do so much better. This is a great city and we can really turn it around.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they are very much on board with you right now. They like your answers. Go ahead, Natalie.
Hey, can I share something with the class?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I'm going to ask you guys a personal question. How old are all of you?
I'm 16.
16.
We got a mix in here.
Okay, so I'm going to give you some of my advice that I learned and take it for what it's worth. I just want to share with you that when you you make a living by working, okay? You make a living by working. You create wealth by owning. It is important for you to develop that mindset. You make a living by working. You create wealth by owning. I don't care what it is. Step one is to own eventually your own house. I don't know if you know this, that 95% of the people in the United States, their biggest asset or wealth is in their home. Here's another fact. The average wealth of a tenant, someone who rents, is 4,000 to 6,000. The average wealth of a homeowner is 200,000. And what I'm suggesting to all of you is think about that and think about how you can eventually own your own home and then own your own business and control your destiny.
Good
All right.
advice. Thank
You have
you.
an extra question. Okay, so right now we have 2 more questions. I know that we're done in less than 10 minutes, but we have at least 2 more questions. Go ahead, Natalie.
So what exactly were your ideas or like tactics to help with the poverty?
So number one, let me say this. In our schools, I believe if we teach financial literacy, tech, and entrepreneurship, and we allow students in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade to go to school 4 days a week, work 1 day a week in a job. If we had done that 15 years ago, this poverty level wouldn't be where it is today. That's number one. So for the long term, we need to do that. In the short term, we need to do a few things. One, I'm going to set up 25 locations across the city in libraries, churches, schools, maybe even rec centers, existing facilities where we teach adults 7 to 9 at night or 6 to 8 at night, financial literacy and how to buy a home. It's so important. I mean, home ownership is the key to generational wealth. So is entrepreneurship. That's how you take people out of poverty. So how to buy a home and financial literacy, technology courses and entrepreneurship courses, how to own your own business. Here's some facts that I will share with all of you. From 2009 to 2018 in the United States, all jobs that were created that paid less than $35,000, which are low-paying jobs, the percentage was 29%. In Philadelphia, the jobs that we created in that 10-year period, 09 to 18, the percentage was 60.5. We're producing more than double low-paying jobs of everywhere else. The jobs we're not producing that are 35 to 100,000 are out in our suburbs. Go look at Conshohocken, Valley Forge, and Malvern and Devon. They're booming out there. And go look at, why is that, you might say to me. Does anybody want to ask that question? Why is that? Why are we producing low-level jobs? We tax small entrepreneurs and small businesses second highest in the country. New York taxes at 16.2. We tax at 15.9. The third highest in the country is California. They tax small business at 8.8. We're at 15.9. Chicago and Boston are 7. Atlanta is 4. We're at 15.9. If you're a small business, it's tough for you to grow here with that kind of tax. If you're thinking about coming here as an employer to employ people, you're not coming here. We need to change the taxation policies of the city to attract more employment, to attract employers and entrepreneurs to grow their business. That's how you deal with poverty in the long run. The goal isn't to make people comfortable in poverty, but to take them out of poverty.
So the person who was gonna ask the question, it seems like you already answered it. Did you have any other follow-up? Okay, so we have 2 more students. So we have Ethan. So how about Ethan go, and then Edward, you can go after, and then, yeah. Well,
You mentioned tackling issues in Kensington on your site. Like, how will you, besides increasing like presence there with government resources, how will you also focus on the massive issues that come with people who are using train and other things?
okay, did you hear him?
Not clearly, no, sorry.
Okay, so we have a student who actually lives in Kensington. And so he was wondering, like, outside of putting more of a police presence in that area, what are some other solutions that you have in mind, specifically addressing the new drugs that are coming in, specifically Trank?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a drug called Trank.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of it, but yeah,
Yeah.
specifically just addressing the drug issue in Kensington.
So let me just say this. I visit Kensington typically once a week. It is the largest drug market in the country. It's a humanitarian crisis. When I looked at the numbers last year, there was over 860 people living on the streets of Kensington. It's been going on for 20 years. We've allowed it to occur. I call it a containment site, like it's okay to go there and do your drugs, which it should not be. So in council in March of 22, 13 months ago, I put in a resolution after I spoke to Governor Wolf. And I said to Governor Wolf, Kensington is worse than a flood, a tornado, or a hurricane. It's worse. Why can't we declare it a FEMA site, a Federal Emergency Management Act site, where we get federal, state, and local help to solve the problem? And he said to me, it's an interesting, creative idea, but I'm not sure there's a category, but if you put in the resolution, I will ask the president. I put in the resolution, council passed it. It called for 3 main things. 1, it started with working with federal drug and law enforcement, state law and drug enforcement, and local drug and law enforcement, multi-jurisdictional, working together with the community partners on the ground, like NKCD and others, to come up with a plan on how to solve the issue. But the 3 targets were, number 1, shut down the drug dealing. That's why we need federal, state, and local to work together. 2, help those people that are on the streets into treatment. That's not 30 days, but 6 months to a year. And since almost 70% are not from Philadelphia, we should try to get them into treatment where their families are so they can have the right support system. Get them all into treatment. And then number 3, restore Kensington Avenue on 2 or 3 blocks on each side from Lehigh up to Allegheny. It's been destroyed, and the city's allowed it to be destroyed. And I would fund from our general fund, whatever it costs, $5 to $7 million a year, to put in a special services district with uniformed but unarmed people walking the streets there to keep it safe, cleaning the streets, restoring the storefronts, bringing greenery, bringing it back. And I would do it for 5 years or longer, whatever it takes, until we got to a point where we had stores opened up, we had business back, we had activity, people felt safe, and then those stores could take over those costs. But I believe it's a comprehensive plan, and until we shut down the drug dealing, This will never stop. Most of the drug dealers are really good entrepreneurs. They're in their own business. When they don't have customers, they give out free samples to get customers. This is a supply and demand issue. If we eliminate the supply and we help those that have the demand, we can solve this problem.
Did you get what you needed? Okay, and it looks like we have time for one more, so Edward, go ahead.
As mayor, do you plan to do anything about the minimum wage?
Did you hear him?
I heard minimum wage. I didn't hear everything.
Yes, so he says, as mayor, what is your plan for increasing minimum wage?
Look, I'm a supporter of Governor Shapiro's increase to $15 an hour, but I'm going to share with you all that even that is not acceptable, okay? $15 an hour on a 40-hour work week is $30,000 a year. That's still poverty. That's not the goal here. And something that we've learned during the pandemic, I want you all to think about this for a moment. During the pandemic from 2020 till 2022 roughly, we saw more job openings and demand for workers. We couldn't fill positions. You've heard the stories, whether it's restaurants, hotels, we couldn't find people. And what happens when you can't find people? The wages increase automatically. So the more we have for demand of jobs, the more we create employers and entrepreneurs, the more wages will rise. And so I'll give you an example. TD Bank, everybody familiar with TD Bank? They were paying tellers in 2019, $10 an hour. Today, they're paying tellers $22 an hour, and they still don't have enough. So the demand is the key here that raises wages to a livable wage. I'm supporting $15 an hour. I want to see it at 20 or higher, and the demand will create that to occur.
All right. Did you get your answer? All right, so I think that's, I know we just have you down for 30 minutes. So thank you again. What is everyone think? I think everyone's, they're impressed. They liked your answers.
Tell your parents, do me a favor, tell your parents to vote for me.
And some of them can vote, they're registered to vote as well. So
Okay,
they
great.
will, I know some of them will be keeping you in mind for May 16th.
And look, I'm only doing this to help the city. And I probably have the most unique skill set in order to accomplish that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Again, we really appreciate you taking time out of your, I'm sure your busy schedule to meet with us. But yeah, we really appreciated this. I think it gives them a lot to think about.
And I wish all of you in school the very best and as successful life as you can have. I wish upon you and good health to all of you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, everyone. Make sure to register to vote by May 1st, and election day is May 16th. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.